was interesting.
Very nice. Beautiful. Hey, Leanna, how are you?
Hi.
Yeah, she was on that.
Yeah. It
Right, wasn't that
was,
interesting?
Myanmar. Yeah, it was Myanmar.
That's
the
it, yeah.
former Burma.
Yeah, I said there's only, because of the COVID, there's only 20, Jews there now, right? So
I mean, without COVID, there were more Jews? What does that
there were a
mean?
lot more, he said. Yeah,
He said there were 100, but a lot left.
Because of COVID, where did they go? That you mean it's not a safe
I'm
place
not-
for COVID?
no, and I think they had some sort of political upheaval.
They're right now going through a political
Yeah.
upheaval. He said there were tanks passing by his house.
Right.
Oh, okay, that's you know.
But I think they're always in the news. They seem to be.
Wow.
Yeah, for decades now.
Well,
Yeah.
what kind of governance is there, or lack of governance? Maybe it's the better word.
He seemed to indicate all these countries were on top of each other. A skip's throw from each of the countries. He said couldn't even go to the beach. The beach was like you had to, I guess, pass through several countries just to get to the beach, which was a 4-hour drive.
Wow. Right.
Like no mikvah. That's why he was going to.
Well, that's what he was going to. Right.
Wow. Hi, Celia. Welcome.
Hi.
Joelle, welcome, and Randy, welcome. Thank you for joining.
Hi, Rabbi Fine.
Hi,
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov. Okay, I think we're going to get started here.
Good to hear your voice, Joelle.
Oh, we heard it, and now we don't. Okay.
Pourquoi il m'est fini de parler? Je comprends pas. Mon micro, il est désactivé. À réactiver.
Oh, now we hear her voice. Hey, Joelle.
Bon.
Okay.
Je sais pas si ça marche.
Si ça marche, Joelle.
Ah, good.
Okay. Actually, let's put it here first. Okay.
Bon, je sais pas pourquoi ça marche pas, ça. Hop. Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to mute everybody, and when you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself. Hello, Heather, and welcome. And Art, welcome to you. Good evening. All right, Shavua Tov, good tavach, a good week to one and all. As we head into a new week, preparing for the holiday of Shavuos, we learn from the Parsha, of course, and what we can hopefully implement into our lives, something that is, as always, meaningful, inspirational, and, you know, achidish, as we say, a novel idea. Well, let's start with a very novel thing. You know what that novel thing is? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nהיה b'dvarei. Say l'chaim with everybody. Oh, Andrew, you got your l'chaim ready there. Everybody has their l'chaim. Make a bracha, shehakol, and we can say l'chaim together. Whatever is in your cup. Some people reveal what's in their cup with a clear glass cup. Mine is not. I don't reveal what's in here. I don't want you to get scared. L'chaim. To life. And life is Torah. Torah is, we call Torah's Chaim, the Torah of life. So when we learn together, it should infuse us and bring added life to us. L'chaim.
Fine. Amen.
Oh, okay. We've told this story before, but it's a story that's worth telling again. So we know that the Rebbe instituted in 1986 what we call dollars. each Sunday, the Rebbe would give out dollars and give brachas, blessings, give advice. Thousands of people would stand, and I did it with my wife and kids. Oh, countless times. And just to get a dollar, to get a bracha, just to be seen and to see and to be seen. The Rebbe often quoted from his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, that when two Jews get together, there should be a benefit for a third. So he would give out dollars in order that to promote, to inspire tzedakah, that we should be charitable. So here two people came together, and there's something, a benefit came to a third, because as a result, you become a shliach, a messenger of the Rebbe, to be charitable, to give more tzedakah. Once, an elderly woman standing in line waiting, and it would go anywhere. On a short Sunday was 4 hours, on a longer Sunday was 8 hours, and the Rebbe would stand the whole time. He would not take a moment. He wouldn't even have a cup of water to take a sip from in between. There was no moment to just relax for a moment, and then continue. Not like me. And once an elderly lady said, Rebbe, sit for a moment. We'll wait an extra minute. It's okay. So Rebbe smiled and he said, it's all right. Every soul is a diamond. Can one get tired from counting diamonds? Rebbe doesn't get tired. So today we're going to speak about diamonds. And what does that mean exactly, diamonds? Who's a diamond? What's a diamond? What makes you a diamond? Right. So in this week's Parsha, the beginning of the book of Bamidbar, and the Parsha is called Bamidbar, which means in the desert. In English, we call it Numbers. Why? Because of the census, the counting that took place in the desert. So let us go straight into the Parsha. As we see before us, large enough that we can see?
Mhm.
Beautiful. Okay. So this is the beginning of the Parsha. God spoke to Moshe in the Sinai desert, Bamidbar, in the tent of meeting on the first day of the second month, in the second year after the Exodus from the land of Egypt, saying, take the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel by families, following their fathers' houses, a head count of every male according to the number of their names, from 20 years old and upward, all who are fit to go into the army in Israel. You shall count them by their legions, you and Aaron. Right? This is the third count, 3 counts that were done in the desert. And what is the point of this? God wants his diamonds to be counted. As God loves the Jewish people, he wants them to be counted and counted frequently. As the Medrash says, see how dear the Jewish people are to God. They are his legions, and he wishes to count them frequently, like one who constantly counts a precious treasure again and again to know how much it contains, and experiences joy over it every time. God similarly would rejoice every time he recalled the number of the Jewish people, saying, I have this number of legions in my world who carry out my will. God takes comfort in them. So in this week's Parsha, the final tally of the 12 tribes of Israel is 603,550 men that are eligible for the draft, for the army. Of course, one tribe is not included, which is the tribe of Levi. So how do we have 12 tribes? He's one of the 12 tribes. Well, as we know, at the end of the book of Bereshis, that Yosef Yaakov said to him that your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, will be counted as each one a tribe. So Yosef, there's no tribe of Yosef, but there's a tribe of the Manasseh and Ephraim as they are counted. And Levi then is excluded, the 13th. Why are they excluded? Because they have a special count and a special job that they need to fulfill amongst the Jewish people. So the sum of those who were counted, 603,550. But the Levites, according to their father's tribe, were not numbered among them. God spoke to Moshe, saying, only the tribe of Levi you shall not number, and you shall not reckon their sum amongst the children of Israel. Okay. Now, the reason they weren't counted, as we just mentioned, that they have a unique mission that they need to fulfill. As the text, as Rashi says in this week's parsha, only the tribe of Levi you shall not not number. The legion of the king deserves to be counted on its own. Another explanation: the Holy One, blessed be He, foresaw that a decree was destined to be enacted against all of those who counted for 20 years and upward, condemning them to die in the desert. He said, let these not be included, for they are mine, since they did not err with the sin of the golden calf. Right? They were not included. Right? Initially, the Bachor, the firstborn, was to do the unique service in the Mishkan and in the Holy Temple, but because they were involved in the sin of the golden calf, that right was taken from them. It was given to the tribe of Levi, since they did not err in that sin. So in that sense, God calls them mine. All right, but they have their separate count, as we see in this week's parsha. God spoke to Moshe in the Sinai desert, saying, count the sons of Levi according to their father's house, according to their families. Count all males from the age of 1 month and upward. So Moshe counted them according to God's word, just as he had commanded. So today's class is specifically about the difference between the count of the Jewish people and the count of Levi. The count of the Jewish people is for 20 years and upward. Why? As the verse says, military service. The count of Levi is from 1 month upwards, right? 1 month upwards. Now, parenthetically, how did this work? It's very difficult. How do you count a baby that's a month old? In other words, 20 years and up, each one can come forward and be registered. They can give their half a shekel and they are now being able to be counted. But how can you count a little child? So the Midrash tells us of the miracle that occurred. Moshe counted them according to God's word. Moshe said to the Holy One, blessed be He, you are telling me to count them from 1 month of age. Can I possibly go and loiter around their courtyards and their homes and count every single one of them? As you have said, count all the males from the age of 1 month and upward. So God said, you do your part and I will do mine. Rabbi Yehuda Levi bar Rabbi Shalom said, Moshe would go and stand by the entrances of their tents. And the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, would draw near and say, there are 5 infants in this home, 5 infants in this home, 10 infants in this home. This is what the verse means when it says Moshe counted them according to God's word. Literally, by God's word, was he able to count the number. But of course, the question is very simple question. Very simple and kind of obvious question. We get why the count is from 20 and up for military service, but why from 1 month? Forget about the difficulty and that now there has to be some kind of, miracle that happens. The Shekhinah, I don't know if it's miracle, but at least the Shekhinah has to divulge to Moshe how many little babies there are in each of one of these tents. But what's the point of it? Why is it necessary? And actually, the problem is further confounded because later on, Moshe is also commanded he needs to make another count of the Levites and to count them from the age of 30 to 50. Why from 30 to 50? Because those are the Levites that are eligible to do the transport of the Mishkan, to travel through the desert. The Levite family was divided into three, as Levi had three children. The three children were Gershon, Kahas, and Merari. So Gershon had the privilege of transporting the ornament, the fine woven tabernacle tapestries, the veils, and the coverings. Kahas, they had the duty to transport all of the holy vessels, the holy ark, the two altars, the menorah, the showbread table, and so on. Finally, Merari, they were empowered. They had the duty of the heavy beams, the panels, and the sockets. Now, this was real physical labor. Therefore, it was only from 30 to 50 that they could participate in fulfilling this mitzvah. So, and this is what the Torah tells us. Let's look inside over here. Text number 5. God spoke to Moshe saying, take a census of the sons of Gershon. This is just one example because it's done again from all three families of the Levites. Gershon of them too, following their father's houses, according to their families, from the age of 30 years and upward until the age of 50 years, you shall count them. All who come to join the legion to perform the service of the tent of meeting. This is the service of Gershon's family to serve and to carry. They shall carry the curtains and tabernacle of the tabernacle and the tent of meeting, its covering and the tachash skin covering the overlaid upon it, and the screen for the entrance of the tent of meeting. The hangings of the courtyard, the screen of the entrance, and the gate of the courtyard, which is around the tabernacles and the altar. Their ropes, all of the work involved, and everything that is made for them, and thus they shall serve. So this is their duties that they need to fulfill. And again, the story repeats itself twice more with Kahas carrying the vessels of the Mishkan and Merari carrying all the structure itself. What is the purpose of counting them from 30? Because that's when they're obligated to fulfill this command of carrying the artifacts when they would travel from place to place. So we understand that. But when they are first counted, the tally is from 1 month upwards. Why is that necessary? Why do we have that initial tally? What is involved if their workload and their obligation is only from the age of 30? Now, there's various answers that are given. There's answers that are given because remember that they're replacing the firstborn, the Bechor. So the Bechor is counted from birth. So they're counted also from this particular time. But let's see what Rashi has to say. We want to learn Rashi and understand Rashi's explanation as he is the simple meaning of the text and how ultimately the Rebbe learns Rashi and gives us new insight. So Rashi says, why are they counted from 1 month, from the age of 1 month and upward, when he is no longer in the category of a possible premature birth? He is counted among those called keepers of the holy charge. Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shalom, said, the tribe is accustomed to being counted from the womb, as it says, whom she bore to Levi in Egypt. As she entered the gate of Egypt, Yocheved, Moshe's mother, was born. Yocheved was counted as one of the 70 souls, for if you count their total, you will find 69, and it was she who completed the number. Okay, what is going on over here in this Rashi? Let's understand. So interesting. Rashi is noting what? That really, why 1 month? Because 1 month takes the child out of the category of a, within the month, if they pass away, then they're not considered a viable fetus. 1 month, they're viable. Right? But that doesn't mean before a month you can do anything to the fetus, obviously. I mean, it's not a fetus now, it's a child, a complete, birth of a child. But the legal standing of complete, a surety that this child will live and is viable is after a month. So essentially, the Levites are being counted because they're alive. And why? Rashi says they're counted among those who are called keepers of the holy charge. Let's look again over here. Keepers, you see the words over here. They're counted essentially because they're alive, and they're keepers of the holy charge. Now, Rashi kind of doesn't seem to answer our question. If anything, he's making it stronger. Now, maybe the second part where it says that they were accustomed to be counted from birth, just like Yocheved was counted from birth when she entered into Egypt. When Yaakov came with the family, there were only 69 and she was the 70th, as we'll get to later to understand that a little better. But the answer of their keepers of the holy charge, what does that mean? How are they keepers of the holy charge? Didn't we just learn that the Levites were counted from 30 to 50 because they were keepers of the holy charge, because they were carrying the all of the Mishkan from place to place? So what does this mean? How do we understand that? What's the relevance over here? And furthermore, what's it got to do with Yocheved? That she was born as she entered into Egypt and then became the 70th of those who went into Egypt. What does that got to do with anything? Question clear. Oh, welcome to Hannah, to Irma, Liba, Davida, who just came on. L'chaim. Again, the question is, why are they being counted from the age of 1 month? Okay, so Rashi explains because they're considered viable. So it means that they're counted by the very fact that they were born, that they're alive. And why is that important? Because they're keepers of the gate, keepers of the charge of the gate, right? What does that mean? Didn't we just learn that they are counted again, 30 to 50? Because that's when they have their duties to fulfill of carrying the various items, the 3 different families carrying different things of the Mishkan of the tabernacle. So it doesn't seem to shtim, doesn't seem to connect. Furthermore, what is Rashi explaining to us about Yocheved? That she was born when she, as the Jews, as Yaakov, Jacob, our forefather, came down. Remember the story, as we'll get to again, more details, coming into Egypt, and she's the 70th soul that enters. What does that explain to us? Anything to do with the Levites? Is that clear, everybody? Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so the answer will be, if we take a closer look at the Torah's description of what the Levites did on behalf of the Jewish people. Yes, we did learn that they have the charge of transporting the Mishkan and its holy objects, but it turns out that that's not the whole story. There's more to their duties. Let's take a look. This in the Parsha. But you shall appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of the testimony, over all its vessels, and over all that belongs to it. They shall carry the tabernacle, and they shall minister to it, and they shall encamp around the tabernacle. So there's a few things here, right? They are responsible for the vessels and everything of the tabernacle. That's one thing. They shall carry the tabernacle, right, and minister to it, meaning we'll see as it elaborates, and then they shall encamp around the tabernacle. So that's a third thing. So continue. When the tabernacle is set to travel, the Levites shall dismantle it. And when the tabernacle camps, the Levites shall erect it. Any outsider, non-Levite, who approaches shall be put to death by the hands of heaven, by the way, not by a Jewish court, but they are not allowed to do that. The children of Israel shall encamp, each man by his own camp, and each man by his division. The Levites shall encamp around the tabernacle of the testimony, so that there will be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel, and that the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle. There we have it. Keep the charge of the tabernacle of the testimony. The children of Israel did according to all that God commanded Moses, thus they do. Okay, so again, what emerges from here? Three things. Responsibility for the tabernacle and its utensils, dismantling and putting it back together, dismantling when they have to travel, putting it back together when they come to their end of the journey of that day or whatever time period, and they would put it back together. And then they had another obligation, was camping around the Mishkan while in the desert, which serves as an additional measure of protection of what? No outsider shall approach it. Okay. By the way, when the Levites came to the holy into Jerusalem, when King David made Jerusalem the holy city, and Temple Mount would be the permanent place of the base of Mikdash, the holy temple. So then they had other jobs. They would sing songs, and they would bring a spirituality to the holy temple. Plus, they were the watchmen. They were took care of being on guard of the holy temple at all times. Okay, but let's get back over here. What part of the Levite service could be that the newborn could participate in what we just said? Anybody? What could newborns be involved in?
Just by being newborn, just because they're a Levite, they're holy?
I don't, but the point is that they are involved in something of being a Levite, right? That's the point that we're making. So what we just described, referring to this week's Parsha, could they be engaged and involved in that would mean that they are fulfilling the mandate of being a Levite, and therefore they're counted from 1 month when they're viable, right? Meaning the very fact that they're alive, right? So obviously carrying the things, obviously not, but caring, right? Ahuva, that they camp outside the tabernacle. Oh, you're touching something. Yes, you've got a point there. They're keepers of the holy charge, right? That's the essential thing of what they are. And because they're keepers of the holy charge, even though they're only a month old, they're still, counted because they are a part of that. How so? Because they camp around the tabernacle, like Ahuva, like you said, right? That doesn't involve doing anything. It's just the fact that you encamp there. And that's what the Rabbi explains. the keepers of the holy charge refers to the fact that the Levites guarded the Mishkan so that no stranger would approach it. As the verse says, the Levites shall keep the charge of the Mishkan of the testimony. This was the purpose of the commandment. The Levites shall encamp around the Mishkan of the testimony. Therefore, Levites can be called keepers of the holy charge already from 1 month age and up, because by camping, by simply being present around the Mishkan of testimony, newborn Levites are in fact keepers of the holy charge, even if they weren't yet ready for the work of actually guarding the Mishkan. Wow, that's a pretty powerful idea. So again, there's a job that's associated with the Mishkan, dismantling when you need to travel, putting it back together when you have come to the day's journey. That's from 30 to 50. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu needed that particular count, because I need those healthy bodies that they could engage in that particular duty, right? But the truth is, the Levite service, that's a detail of the Levite service. The Levite service, the encompassing idea is keepers of the holy charge. And where does that begin? When they're born. Simply being alive, living, right? And yes, taken care of by your mother and your father, right? Particularly your mother, especially today, that fulfills the job of camping around the Mishkan. They camped around the Mishkan. So it means they had a part in fulfillment of being a Levite. That's amazing. Now with this, we can understand what Rashi brings down. Remember, so we understand now why from 1 month. But remember, we brought down about Yocheved, and we were wondering, like, what has that got to do with anything? That Yocheved was born, as entering into Egypt. How do we understand that to be an explaining why the Levites are being counted from 1 month, or essentially when they're born? So now we're going to get a deeper understanding. So let's rewind a bit and go back to the story in Bereshit. If you remember, Yaakov relocated from Canaan to Egypt. Why? To rejoin Yosef, who is the Mishnah Lamelech, the second in command, right? And the Torah tells us there, after listing Yaakov's sons and grandsons of the family, he lists the entirety of the family that's going down into Egypt, if you recall. And the souls coming to Egypt with Jacob, those descended from him, excluding the wives of Jacob's sons, all the souls were 66. And Joseph's sons, who were born to him in Egypt, 2 souls, all the souls of the house of Jacob came to Egypt were 70. Anybody can do some math here? 66 and 2 and 1 equals 70. That's called new math. That's kind of, where do you get 70? That's 69. Right? That's 69. Because there was another person. 69. There's 66 that went down, 3 that were there, but 1 that didn't go down, but was born as they entered into Egypt. Who? Yocheved, the mother of Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. She's born at that moment, right? She's a sister of Yocheved is the daughter of Levi, and the sister to Gershon, Kahas, and Merari, the 3 families of the Levites that we mentioned earlier, right? Now, why is this such a big deal? Why do we need to bend over backwards, so to speak, to get to the number 70? Okay, the math doesn't, remember the verse is telling us 66 plus 2 boys that were born to Yosef in Egypt, right? Ephraim and Manasseh, and Yosef, that equals 69. So now we got a problem. Who is the 70th? Why is that so important? for us to know. I mean, obviously the verse is telling us that there's 70, but why is the verse so important that we come to the total of 70? And if we came to the total of 69, that's not good enough. I mean, makes sense. What's the Torah trying to teach us here? So first of all, the number 70 is a really important number. There's 70 elders in the desert. There's 70 ways, Shivim Panim LaTorah, there's 70 ways that you can understand Torah teachings. There are 70 holidays. When you include a year, 52 Shabbases, and you include Pesach 7 days, and you include Shavuos 1 day, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur 1 day, and Sukkot is 8 days, you come up to 70. God's name, 70 names of God, but that's not the key thing. The key point over here is that there are 70 nations of the world. And what does that mean, there's 70 nations of the world? Anybody know what that means? Where does that come from? Well, when we say 70 nations of the world, we don't mean 70 political entities. I'll explain, Tarek. We don't mean 70 political entities. We don't mean 70 borders. But we mean 70 national forces in the world, that each one has its own unique quality, has its own angel above, that is its patron angel, that brings it its own interests and its own uniqueness. Its own uniqueness. Some of it has to do with language and has to do with culture, and so on and so forth. Let's take a look at Pena Bechaya as he explains this to us. Until the dispersion, the Tower of Babel, right, after the flood of Noah, then came the dispersion by the Tower of Babel. All of the inhabitants of the earth spoke one language, Hebrew, the language God used to create the world. Now that they had sinned, their languages were mixed up. And it ended up happening that 70 branches of Noah's family were divided into 70 nations, each with its own language. As we know, there are 70 spiritual ministers guiding the 70 nations below. Each spiritual minister is the basis for its particular nation and language. Oh, that's interesting. So what we understand now is that when Yaakov's journey into Egypt wasn't just relocating for a temporary purpose because they didn't have enough food to eat in the famine, the times of famine in Canaan, but really it was about the Jewish nation. First, they would have to go into exile. They would have to go into slavery. Then they would have to come out, and of course, the Exodus, and become the Jewish nation that we are. But actually, it's even more than that. The fact that they had to go into Egypt was the beginning of them becoming a light unto the nations, the beginning of the mission to uplift the entire world and to make it a place for God. How? Well, there's already 70 nations in the world at this point. The Zohar states Yaakov's family had to be 70 members and able to match the forces of the 70 nations of the world. Zohar. Reb Chia was sitting before Reb Shimon and said, why did the Torah see fit to count the sons of Jacob? As the verse states, all of the souls of the house of Jacob who came to Egypt were 70. And why 70 and no more? Shimon replied, the number 70 corresponds to the 70 nations of the world. The Jewish people were one nation facing all of the rest. So the point over here of Yocheved of being counted as the 70th soul was in order to bring a completion to the Jewish people, because ultimately they would have to embark on their mission to be a light unto the nations and to transform the world. as the Rebbe explains in the Sikha that we're learning right now, by mentioning the fact that all of the souls of the house of Jacob who came to Egypt were 70, the Torah emphasizes their completeness. 70 reflects the completeness of the entire Jewish people. By bringing them to the number 70, Yocheved made the entire house of Jacob complete. Now, let's take this a step further. Is that clear, everything? Thumbs up, everybody? We're on board? Now, let's take this a step further. How old was Yocheved when she managed to bring completion to the Jewish people, to the Jewish nation? A newborn infant. And this is what Rashi is saying, the trait that was engraved into the Levite nature, that she accomplished something so great, literally just being born. The Levite children would be counted as the keepers of the holy, even though they are just born and viable at 1 month. After all, the integral part of the Levite mission, which they undertook on behalf of the Jewish people, the entirety of the Jewish people, is to camp around the Mishkan. This is not something they had to do that had to do with any age. Just being present means you're the keeper of the holy charge. In other words, Yocheved brought completion to the entire Jewish people just by living. The Levites' children, at the youngest age of a month, become the guardians of the Mishkan, fulfilling the needs of the entire people because they're doing it on their behalf. And this is what the Rebbe explains. So Rashi states the tribe is accustomed to being counted from the womb. Already from birth, they have the ability to affect the completion of the entire house of Jacob. Therefore, they can already be counted from the age of 1 month, and they can also be called keepers of the holy charge, something necessary for the entire Jewish people. So, of course, an important lesson, not only for the Levites, but for all of us. All of us, as the Rambam famously says, that we can all strive to be the ideal of the Levite tribe. Even if you weren't born as a Levite, you could still be a guardian of the holy charge. You can dedicate yourself in a selfless way to serve Hashem. As the Rambam says, not only the tribe of Levi is holy, rather it can be for anyone in the world whose spirit generously motivates him to and has the insight to set himself aside and stand before God to serve him and minister to him and to know God precedingly justly as God made him, removing from his neck the yoke of the many reckonings that people seek, is sanctified as the Holy of Holies. God will be his portion and heritage forever and will provide what is sufficient for him in this world, like he provides for the priests and the Levites. Chaim. So what do we have here, folks? A remarkable message that we all have this capability to be like the Levites, to serve God. So what comes out of here is something interesting. There is actually interesting what we learned recently, I've been learning in Tanya. We speak about the presence of God. There's the essence of God. There is the way God brings vitality into the world and a unique functionality of everything, right? And there's different stages in the vitality, or different levels of vitality, right? Inanimate versus humans, souls, and so on. So likewise, when you look at a person, you look at a person, there's different levels of their capacity to serve. So when you have bar and bat mitzvah, the Torah directs us and tells us that now you become obliged to take now responsibility for your, to start taking responsibility for your relationship with God and for the mitzvahs that you need to fulfill, right? Then you become you grow further into that. You get a little older. You get married, and now as a couple, that entails new obligations that you have between each other. And then you have a child that brings even more responsibility that we need to engage in, more mitzvahs that we have to fulfill. And of course, being part of a community, you also need to engage in the community and in the mitzvahs that are engaged with that. But a Jew is counted amongst the servants of God already from birth, right? The newborn Levite child already becoming a keeper of the holy charge simply by being alive. Simply by being alive. Just as a result of being alive and being around surrounding the tabernacle, being in your parents' home as a little child, you're keeper of the holy charge. Why? It's because there's an inherent value to the child, and not just because later on they're going to become an adult and be obligated in things, but they already have an inherent value, and therefore they're counted. And not only are they counted, but what comes out is ultimately, the next generation that will emerge will be based on them. And this is something unique that the Rebbe introduces and explains in Rashi over here, and something unique that the Rebbe revealed to the world as the inherent value of the child. Previous generations, the child was, to be, would only talk when you're talked to. Why? Because there's not an inherent value to the child. It's only, training the child now to when they become an adult and become responsible and they become a productive member of society, carrying their own family and bringing their own family and being a member of a community and helping, in a community. But here, what the Rebbe is, the chiddush, the novelty in the Rebbe's teaching over here, and it becomes a novelty that was introduced by the Rebbe, is the inherent value of the child. And hence we see that the Rebbe spoke to children. He made rallies just for kids. I remember, since I wasn't a teacher, I couldn't be there. The teachers could be there because they were, they came from school together with their students. But I couldn't be there because I wasn't a teacher. I had to be, outside, because here the Rebbe is speaking specifically to the children. It never happened in previous generations that you had that. I mean, maybe you had it here and there. Mordechai did in the story of Purim, gather the children. But for the most part, great holy sages and leaders didn't gather the children together and speak to them, because, children were about preparing them for adulthood. It was all about a preparation. But what's brought out over here in this teaching over here is, no, they're the keeper of the holy charge by the fact that they're counted from when they're viable, a month old. And with this, then we can understand also the uniqueness, as this is a preparatory to Shavuos, and Bamidbar is always read before Shavuos. And here, the simple reason is that because Bamidbar means in the desert, and the desert means no man's land, meaning it belongs to everybody equally. Likewise, the Torah belongs to every single Jew equally, not to the scholars first, and then to the non-scholars second, or to the children third. No, to all of us equally. That's the idea of the reading of in the desert, that it belongs to all of us equally. But here the Rebbe brings it even more stark and important teaching, not only to all of us equally, but there's actually something unique about the children, as famously known as when God came to the Jewish people and said, give me a guarantee that you're going to keep this Torah. So we offered, well, we come from great lineage. We have Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. We have a great lineage where we come from. Nah, that's not going to work. Well, then we have other great prophets and great leaders that, have been there ever since. We have great people, Moses and others. And said, no, I'm not. They're not my guarantors. So finally, God said, okay, I'll only accept one guarantee, and that is the children, as the Medrash says. I'll only accept the children. Meir said, when the Jews stood before Sinai to receive the Torah, God said to them, I swear I will not give you the Torah unless you provide worthy guarantors who will assure that you will observe its laws. The Jews responded, Master of the world, our forefathers will be our guarantors. Your guarantors themselves require guarantors, God replied. Master of the world, the Jews exclaimed, our prophets will be our guarantors. I have grievances against them too, God replied. As the verse states, the shepherds have rebelled against me. God concluded, bring proper guarantors, and only then will I give you the Torah. They said, our children will serve as our guarantors. They truly are worthy guarantors, God replied. Because of them, I will give the Torah. So we see here this notion very clearly stated, the uniqueness and the specialness of the Jewish children. So, you could learn this, that guarantors means in other words, the simple meaning of it is that they're guarantors. How? Because I will devote Torah to make sure that I give it to them, that they will be a guarantor, that it will continue to the next generation, right? Which makes sense. But how am I giving it to them? So the simple way is chinuch, education. I'm going to bring them up education. But yet that education implies that they're only being educated to come to the level where they in turn be responsible at bar and bas mitzvah, and be more fully responsible when they get married and create a family, that they will then more fully responsible. But it's only a means to the end. Now, what the Rebbe is bringing out over here is that there's a value as an end in themselves, is just the fact that they are. Just the fact that they are born, living. They're already keepers of the gate, keepers of the charge, of the holy charge. They already, in a sense, they didn't do anything, but the fact that they are surrounding the Mishkan means they're already fulfilling something. There's a value in their very being. And that is the uniqueness of our generation, of the uniqueness of the child, is that, and it's interesting how it's reflected in society at large today, that there's a much more inherent value that we give to the child, not just that they'll grow up to be good kids and be good adults and lead functional, meaningful lives, but when we give their value as essential value, that will be the guarantee that they will be functioning, good, productive Jews, and will carry on the tradition and give it and pass it on forward to their children. That is the uniqueness of what is being brought out over here. Any questions, any comments? Chaim. Again, a very powerful idea of on the attitude. Again, I don't want to overstate this, but it's a very unique view on
Rabbi,
how we look at the Jewish child. Yes, Tarek.
I want to know where I can find these tickets.
Sorry, I didn't catch, Tarek. Say that again.
Where I can get these tickets that he showed.
I don't understand. I'm sorry. And
Where can I get these texts you shown?
these,
Where can I?
what you mean? Well, are you talking about what I showed on the screen here, the teachings?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Do I have your email?
I will write it down to you. I will write it down to you in my private message. Okay, between me and you. Okay?
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Yep.
God bless.
All right. Thank you. Well, very
I have a question.
important. Huva, go ahead.
I missed a connection. There's the Levites that were counted, the 70. But before that, you said there was another bunch of us that was counted, and we all had to be in our own separate camps. So why are we all of a sudden part of the levies and not the other numbers? I missed the connection.
So remember, we're learning the Parsha and we're applying the teachings of the Parsha to us in our personal lives, right? So the counting of the Levites is bringing out the notion that counting from not when you are merely functional, which was 30 to 50, that you're functional to be able to carry the heavy loads, right? Or the Jewish people that are functional in the sense of being able to be drafted in the army from 20 to 60. That's the regular count of the Jewish people, right? What the count from a month old is teaching us is functionality and value is not merely because you actually carry out something that you did, but it's teaching us that by the very fact that you are has value. Where do we see that? The Levites are counted from a month. Just by the fact that they were living with their parents surrounding the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which is fulfilling one of the mandates that the Levites need to fulfill, right? To protect the Mishkan that non-Levites shouldn't come close to. And therefore, you know, if they were impure, they would die by the hands of heaven if they were spiritually impure. So they're not doing anything, but yet they're fulfilling the holy charge of the Mishkan by just being. So as the Rambam says, anybody can be a Levite in spiritual terms, not in you know, you can't have the aliyah of a Levite, or you know, Mashiach comes and then do the work in the Mishkan until, you know, proven to be as such. But it's a lesson to teach us, for all of us. In other words, is it only the Levite that counts? No. We all count inherently, not because of merely of our functionality do we count. We count because we are. And that's why the Levite was counted. Is that who is that for? Only the Levite? No, the lesson is being taught that for every one of us, just because we are, we count, period. And I just expressed that. We see that in how the Rebbe's attitude was towards children. Most, you know, adults don't look at children. Now, there's an inherent love that you have for the child. We're not talking about inherent love of the child that you have, right? Inherent value we're talking about. Now, of course, there's inherent value in just life itself, but we're equating that there's inherent value with functionality. Just because you are, that makes you functional already, in the sense that you have something, period, inherently that makes you functional, in the sense that you have something to provide now. Right now, That's not the way you look at children. That's not how throughout the ages people looked at children. Throughout the ages, we looked at children as that we're training them to be good kids, that they'll be good adults and responsible, and they'll in turn have their own family and train those kids so they should be good, right? That it was a means to an end, right? Not that their life is a means to an end, but their being itself has functionality. That's a big novelty to say. That's a big
Rabbi,
One second, Tarek. Just give me a second. That's a big novel statement to make. Of course, just being, you have inherent value in life. What's the proof? God forbid you kill somebody that is, you can get the death sentence for it, right? You can be killed for that. If there's two witnesses, the whole thing. So, but what's being equated here is that I have functional value just by being. Whoa, that's a different way to look at a person. It's almost like saying what I have in potential is almost real, is to be realized right now. So look at what the potential of the person is, and just, hey, that's what they are in functionality. That's what we're saying about this child here that's a month old, is just, already keeping charge of the holy Mishkan. Well, they did something. Yeah, just by being they did. So the same thing is, that's how, if we look at a person that way, just that they are, look at what they are essentially as their functionality almost. Thank you for asking this, because now it's just clarifying for me more so. If you look at a person that way, what happens? Like when you look at a person and you see their negativity, you see what they're not, and therefore, you harp on their negativity, then obviously what you're going to do is just bring out more negativity in them, right? Here what we're saying is, look at them what they are essentially. They are essentially holy, but not that they are just essentially holy, but that's their functionality, then it becomes holy just by the fact that they are. And this is the view, how we can look at everybody. And that's how the view is of the child over here in that sense. Is that clear, Ahuba? Does that resonate?
Rabbi,
Yeah,
Let me
separating the physical functionality from the spiritual lesson of it, the application of it.
It's a bit, I need to filter it through my head a little more into, it's sort of like an attitude of how you're looking. How are you looking over here? How are you perceiving over here? You're seeing that just the fact that you are, just the fact that this Levi is a month old, right, is already, they've got a value, they've got a function, they've got something that they're contributing. They did nothing. Just the fact that you are is contributing. Right? Look at it that way. Just the fact you are, you're contributing. That's amazing. That's an amazing way to look at another person.
Even though I'm not a Levi.
No, even though you're not a Levi. That's the point that Rambam says. You could choose to be a Levi. How? A Levi means you give yourself over to God. Give yourself over to God to look at another person this way. Just because you are, you're contributing. That's what we're saying. That's like amazing. That's like, wow. Isn't that an amazing way to look at another person, that they're with you, you're involved with them, and they didn't do anything, nothing earth-shattering, they didn't do anything amazing, they didn't do anything. That's so empowering to the person. Wow. You mean you appreciate me just for that I am, and that itself is a contribution? Thank you. That's so endearing. That's so amazing. That's so beautiful. Right? Tarek, go for it. But you got to turn down the noise behind you. There's too much noise. What's going on in Egypt? You got to leave Egypt because too much noise there. Oh, now it's better. Go ahead, Tarek.
No, it's music. It's music.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I left you my email in Zoom chat down here. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
God bless. God bless. Okay, it just clarified for me a bit much more now. I have a little much greater appreciation of the idea now. Didn't have the right words before, and I think I got some of the right words. Thanks for your push. Yeah, is it resonating now? So that's beautiful.
It's a beautiful message. Absolutely. Yeah. I was just struggling with like the background story of how there are different ways to count people.
Each one is a message.
Who they are.
Each one is a message. Counting the Levite 30 to 50. So now, listen, by the way, if you're counting already only between from a month old and right. So what do you need the 30 to 50 count? I mean, if you just your presence, just your being is already a contribution. So what do you need the 30 to 50? Because there's still something more that you can do. There's a value just in that, but there's also a value in actually that you contribute and carry the load. So, both things are true. There's a value in just you are. That itself is a contribution. Oh, so let me sit back and just, watch some comedy the rest of the night. And let me just, vegetate. Let me just, just I am. That's true. But there's also a value that you contribute and carry the load, carry the Mishkan. So, both things are true when you need to both. You need both counts. You need both counts.
Got it.
Yeah. Everybody, I need a thumbs up from everybody. I need a thumbs up. Carla, I need a thumbs up from you. I need from Sarah Malka, Celia, Joel. Celia, Tarek. All right. Now you made my day. Because now, not only is there value, by the way, just because you come here and we don't even have, sometimes we don't even see the image of anybody, right? What we just see that you're here. Just the fact you're here, that counts. That has value, period. But at the same time, we also want the thumbs up that you're carrying the load with you, that you got it. And it's not just, you were here and just being here, that's a contribution. Absolutely. Coming and even just, showing just your name, that already just being here, that has value. At the same time, we need the other part. All right, folks. Baruch Hashem.
Could you say something for a minute?
Could I say something?
Yes. Could you answer my question just for a minute?
Sure, go ahead.
If it's off topic, just tell me and forget about it. But you didn't deal with it, but it's in the Parsha, and it confuses me about the Levites redeeming the firstborn. And if they cannot redeem the firstborn, they pay half a shekel. Something like that. I don't understand it. Don't they redeem all the time and pay half a shekel?
For every firstborn, a Levite, right, they have to be redeemed. So they're redeemed.
Which means that you pay for that.
That's the mitzvah today of the firstborn, that they need to be redeemed. Because remember, they were originally supposed to be the holy ones of God, right? But because they got involved in the sin of the golden calf, they lost that privilege.
Right.
They lost the privilege, but they still have a holiness. They still have a holiness of the firstborn that
Right.
needs to be redeemed.
I
That
see.
holiness needs to be redeemed.
So the Levites redeem the firstborn.
Redeem the firstborn. And now every firstborn still needs to be redeemed because there's a vestige of holiness in that firstborn by the virtue of being the firstborn and the original servants of God, so to speak, the original, ones who were supposed to serve, but they lost that. They lost that because of the sin of the golden calf, and Levites being by the fact that they were not involved in that sin.
Yes.
They're called mine. God calls them mine because they stayed mine all the time.
But if the Levites do not redeem, then you have to pay half a shekel.
No, there was an overlap of a number 273, if I remember. I don't remember. I don't
Right,
remember
right.
exactly. So those had to be redeemed with money. The other ones were redeemed a firstborn for a Levite, right? That's one thing in the parsha, right? Then there was there were too many
Extra.
firstborn.
I understand.
So they needed to be redeemed through money.
I understand now.
Right.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Now there's again today, we still have the firstborn that needs to be redeemed through a pidyon aben, right?
Right.
That's all. That's what I do there. All right, folks.
Thank you.
Wonderful. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9:30 for Tanya. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Fine.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Rabbi Fine.
You well.
Bye.
Shavua Tov, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Shavua tov.